I mean, that feels like a really, really good spot to do that. The music just like pauses for the next song. It's like, let's do that, yeah. Let's do that now. Let's just quickly finish off sending out some bits and pieces. Warm up question is in the chat. Best song to play at hockey. So go do that bit. Why is that echo going on? We'll figure that one out momentarily. Da-da-da-da. Let's just get rid of that. Because we got a lot to talk about, as you can appreciate. There we go. Let's press that button there. And we will hit that. Oh. Hey, green light. There we go. Hello. Hello, everybody. It's doing that echoey thing again, and I don't really know why. Let's just make sure all the other inputs are... It's echoing for me, not for you, clearly, but I'm... is there much better than the hockey song? I mean, Thunderstruck by AC/DC, I Want It All by Queen, which is the only Queen song I like, I have to confess. I don't like Queen, but I do. But I think I Want It All. I Want It All for opening face-off of a playoff final or a cup final, or like a game where you could win the league, I think is probably like up there. Yeah, but the hockey song by Stompin' Tom Connors, of course, absolute classic. Cannot be matched in a variety of ways. I've realised as well that I have not clicked the requisite buttons to get up the score from the game that's ongoing at the moment, because Dundee and Manchester are playing, and it is 0-0. Great. Oh, Dundee with a goal disallowed though, so that's a little bit of that. Yes, thank you, Jamie. AC/DC Thunderstruck. I'm always very, very proud that post the Bison going away, I did get Bavi to play Red Baron by Sabaton. That was really good. I don't know if this is my glasses or my thing there. Let's just do a little bit of a... That's a bit more blurry, isn't it? There we go. That's a bit crisper. Knew I'd clipped something on the way through. Either way, I think we are going to have to get going, because like I've got a few things that I need to get off my chest, because he's just moving some books that are poking out of a bookcase into his calf. There's a lot to say. So, yeah. Guys, gals, and the gender fluid, and all beyond the binary. It is Wednesday. It is 8 PM. And welcome back once again to the BOTW What's Current stream. My name is Anthony Russell, here to take you through the weird and wonderful and wacky world that is British ice hockey. We focus on the absolute lot of it. Every game, every division, this is where British hockey lives. It is the BOTW What's Current stream. From Belfast to Bradford, Leeds to Lee Valley, we leave no stone unturned, and we'll go through every game played across all senior divisions, male and female, from across Great Britain over the last week or so. Great to have you back with us for another week. I am feeling slightly more alive than I did a couple of days ago, because the BOTW road trip, which we're going to talk about in a bit of detail in a little bit as well, has gone on. There has been a bunch of news, some in the Elite League that kind of affects all of British hockey. Big news out of the National Division into the bargain as well. It has just occurred to me, just because a message has popped up. If I press that in about here, just press those buttons. There we go. Just making sure that's posted out on all the relevant bits I need to post it out on. There we go. So there we go. That's me. That's me doing admin as we're talking. Always a great thing of that. Either way, let's quickly bash through the housekeeping before we get too much further into it. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one website for all things British hockey. Of course, you can follow me on my journey through commentating on the Elite League as the match night voice of the Guildford Flames in the box thinking. Of course, there wasn't a piece last weekend because the Flames were on their little Scottish sojourn, which we'll come to when we talk about the Elite League fixtures. But there's a few other bits and pieces you can look at my hockey journey as well through the season. The return of Running with the Herd as the Basingstoke Bison are back, but for the first time in 25-26, the return of Banners on the Road. Banners on the Road was what kept us tiding over when the Bison were just out of sight beyond the mist, and I wasn't commentating week in, week out, because I got to my first proper game as a neutral, such as it is this season. I was in Belfast last weekend, my first ever trip for ice hockey over the Irish Sea. I was at the Belfast Giants and the Commentary Players game on Friday night. Which was excellent. There's a full write-up about that there. The other thing you can check out is Hockey Stories. Like, it's not had a great deal of time to do a lot of the pre-production of the next series of Hockey Stories, but there's so many of them on the website, you don't need to worry. You can go catch up on all of the old ones, whether it's We've Come a Long, Long Way Together, where I chatted with Tyler Delabatouche and Luca Tasadri, both started in the south, now playing in North 1. Whether it's The Gentleman Flyer, the story of Constantine Cantacuzino, the pioneer of Romanian ice hockey who fought on both sides of World War II, whether it's Back to War, where I look at how Conn Smythe, who's the big force behind the Toronto Maple Leafs, ended up in hospital in Basingstoke. There is a bunch of things that you can check out over there, all on the website, bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, as we creep ever closer towards our 15th anniversary at the end of March. And the other good bit, of course, is all of your usual YouTube spiel. Head down to the description for the links to all of our social media. We're on X, we're on Facebook, we're on Blue Sky, should you wish to follow us on those. And of course, the link is also down there for, firstly for 3D League. So if you want any of your 3D printed pieces, you can go get those. But also as well, our virtual busking hat over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. We're never going behind the paywall, just not our style. But if you like what you see and want to help keep the lights on and keep the wheels turning, that would be appreciated. Like I say, I've got some, it's probably going to be in the next week or two where I'm going to start experimenting with some changes, mostly to the stream. We're going to see how that goes. Either way, like I say, it's going to be a bit of trial and error, I think, on my part as to what's going to work, what's not going to work. I'm going to be speaking to a few people who do some bits and pieces just to try and tinker with some settings and see if I can get it to work. Either way, I think, hopefully, touch wood, it should be okay. I'm not trying to do anything too astronomically difficult in the grand scheme of things. I'm just trying something that I've not done before, and I have an element of tech expertise, but it is mostly related to computer systems in a GP surgery and not to do this, so we will figure that one out as we go. But of course, the other great thing is, and we know we love the catch-up crew, you can stick your thing for best hockey song in the comments if you're watching on catch up. But of course, if you are watching live, that means you get to join in with the fun and games that is the chat. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything you want to get off your chest as we talk our way through British hockey for the next 60 to 90 minutes, then please feel free to do so. All we ask is if you are joining in with the chat, remember the golden rule. Rule number 1 here at BOTW, DBAD. Don't be a dick. Be respectful of other people's thoughts and feelings, and we will all have a jolly good time. Right. We're going to start. Actually, I'll tell you what we'll do, because we'll do the big horrid bit right off the bat. Okay, that's not going to win me some friends, and it's probably going to annoy some people, but I want to do it anyway because I feel like I need to get it off my chest because it's ruminating in my brain. National Division playoff ticket prices. We are going to do in a bit once we've talked about the National Division results from last weekend, because I bothered to download the graphics. So we're going to talk about it in a bit. If you want to talk about the National Division ticket prices, hold your ground just for a sec. We're going to talk about it in depth in a little while. So, but there's something that, in my opinion, is a little bit bigger that we need to talk about first, and we will do that. The other things we should say, of course, it has been before we kick on with the really big bit. There's been a couple of little bits of movement around the league. Of course, we talked in Guildford about Jake Gravel having already left the Spectrum, and then another name leaving the Spectrum. Jake Kupski leaves and heads to Belfast, which was a little bit of a surprise to a lot of people. But with Jackson Whistle heading off to GB this upcoming weekend for the European Cup of Nations, they wanted an extra netminder, and given the fact that Guildford kind of lost a place for Kupski. And it's not to say that Jake Kupski is a bad netminder. The numbers do not do him justice. 5 games played, 5 games he's not won, including the last game he played, which was that nightmare overtime error that allowed Coventry to sneak out with an overtime winner when he just fanned on the puck, dropped his stick and fell on the floor. Kupski's save numbers kind of tell the story here of what a good netminder he can be, and I think as a stopgap potentially as well, where Alexei Gravel has struggled in Belfast, Jake Kupski, who we know who played a fair chunk of last season for Guildford, can do a job in the short term for the Giants. Will he be a long term solution? I'm not so sure about that myself. However, it's always good to see a guy land on his feet. I'm sure everybody in Guildford wishes Jake the best over in Belfast. Of course, we've had a few other sort of little bits of shuffling around. We still await a full-time coach in Glasgow, with Corey Nielsen having gone. We await to see whether any last bits of movement will happen. Of course, Marcus Ericsson having gone from Belfast, will they find another forward? Yet to be seen, although Josh Roach did return after his long-term injury for the Giants last Friday night. However, there is one player that we probably should touch on in the sense of that the fact that David Booth looks like he might be out for some time. The circumstances around that are going to be interesting for Fife. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to be deadly honest with all of you, because I don't sugarcoat stuff generally very well. I don't sugarcoat stuff in a very different way from a lot of other people, but I will speak my mind on this because it irked me. When I was in Belfast over the weekend, I'm aware that Belfast as a city comes with a bunch of baggage, and it comes with a very, very contentious history that has a bunch of things rooted in very, very deeply within very, very different parts of society there. And there's something that has something to be said about the fact that people, when it comes to the Giants, things are left at the door, per se. You're not allowed to wear sectarian colours, for example, in the SSE when you go to a game there. And you have people from both sides of that historic divide in that city that come together. I shook hands and said hello and was introduced to a variety of people from both sides of that equation. And it's fascinating to watch it, real and live in living colour, where people may not have moved 1,000% past what came before it, but they found a place to work and to coexist. Then, of course, the news comes out on Saturday night about what happened in Fife. Now, I briefly, if you've been living under a rock, given the fact that you should probably be watching this if you understand what happens in British hockey, essentially, the Fife Flyers, of course, did not wear their Pride jerseys on Saturday evening for what was designated as their Pride game. A late decision just before face-off saw them not wear them to respect the diversity of views within the locker room. They were going to wear their warm-up jerseys, and this resulted in the fact that David Booth did not come out and warm up for the game. He then was subsequently injured during the game very, very early on, and a lot of people have obviously put this down to the fact that he didn't warm up, which is not an unreasonable thing, albeit freak injuries can happen anywhere in any sport. Essentially what has happened here, and because people have put two and two together, is that David Booth's personal feelings about the celebration of inclusion and diversity with regards to the LGBTQIA plus community meant that, one, he wasn't comfortable wearing a Pride jersey for 60 minutes of ice hockey, and that he wasn't prepared to even warm up wearing one of the jerseys. When I start this show, regular viewers of this will know it, because you'll know it without knowing it, because I say it pretty much every week. Guys, gals, and the gender fluid and all beyond the binary. It's not a gimmick for me. People will know that my background, and I am a religious man, I am a long-standing believer, as apparently is David Booth, but we appear to have come to two very, very different conclusions about this. I've heard a few people say, people bash out the usual excuses, sport isn't a place of politics. That's not how life works, and regular viewers will know that I disagree hugely with that, because politics is the practical manifestation of your values. They have a place everywhere you go. Politics is not about who you vote for. It's not just about sticking an X in a box once every 5 years or once every couple of years and walking away. Politics is how you interact with the world and the values that you profess to have. And so that doesn't fly for me. The problem then comes for a lot of people where they say, and one of the things I've seen is that this ideology of LGBTQIA+, this ideology that's creeping into our sport, and that is where I stop you. Because a lot of people have said, oh, well, if you think it's not right that he's done this, but what if there was a MAGA night? Adherence to a political philosophy is a choice. It is a choice. Who you vote for is a result of a bunch of choices and a bunch of your values. I want to say this out loud really, really loudly so that people understand this, because as another straight white guy on the internet wearing glasses, I can say things that others cannot say and get away with it. So I will say this. Being gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender or any of those bits and pieces, who you are is who you are. It is not a choice. It's not a choice. How you express that is a choice. But this notion that people choose to be gay, or choose to be lesbian, or choose to be bisexual, or choose to be any of those things, is not true. As a society, I thought we'd walked past that point. And as a result, because that is who you are, in this great sport of ours, you have a place, because who you are is who you are. And hockey, in that sense, will let you in. And then people will say, he's got a right to hold those views. David Booth can think and believe whatever he likes. What he is not immune from is criticism of those views. He's not disavowed of being critiqued for those views. And ultimately, where his view comes against people's ingrained identity of who they are, I'm sorry, but I don't have to respect that opinion. Do I have to accept its existence? Yes. Do I have to accept that he can hold that opinion? Yes. Do I have to respect it? No. No, I don't. Because we cannot sit in a paradoxical state and tolerate intolerance. That's not how that works, in my view. Ultimately, when you get down to brass tacks, one club has managed to bin off its Pride Night because it didn't want to hurt the feelings of one person, albeit arguably their best player. But Fife sold out its good name, any goodwill towards it from a large swathe of the community, those who are either, those who are either who fly under the rainbow flag or don't, its community, and ultimately the people who were going to accept a bunch of money from them from doing Pride Night, they sold them down the river for comfort. Being an ally to things means being an ally when it's comfortable and when it's not. It's interesting, isn't it? Because men's hockey suffers greatly from this whole tiptoeing around bits and pieces, but women's hockey genuinely doesn't. These questions, there's a few asked of them from time to time, and we saw issues regarding the transgender player at the Solent Amazons, and I made my point again, and I'll make it now, that the policy regarding transgender athletes from UK ice hockey is poorly written and needs to be redone because it has no grounds for nuance. But ultimately, if the league is turning around and saying, we want to celebrate this, and the club turns around and says, we're going to celebrate this, and then runs in the other direction as soon as it gets mildly tough, then what is the point of doing it? Ultimately, for me being on the right side of this, what Hull should have done, Hull are fine, Hull are okay, it's Fife. What Fife should have done is they should have stood their ground. Should David Booth have played? Arguably, they probably should have just had that conversation and said, we as an organisation hold this as a value, David. You do not wish to participate. You can sit this out. We will not pay you for that. And you can come back next week when you feel more in a position to join in. Now, would it have stopped some of the flailing around? Probably not, but people could have written it off to an injury as much as anything else, and they could have just said nothing and moved on. But ultimately, Fife, who are already in the muck for a bunch of different reasons in a sporting sense, have now made themselves morally and, in terms of being able to trust their word, have shot themselves in the foot quite drastically. Hockey is for everyone. But you are not immune from that discussion as to whether your views are acceptable in society. David Booth is a really good hockey player. Brilliant. Even at 41 years old. Clearly more than capable of doing things in this league. But he is not excused from those views being challenged and critiqued. I thought we'd move past this a bit, and unfortunately we've not over the last couple of weeks, over the last couple of days by the look of it. And so I'm going to keep saying the thing I've said from time to time. I cannot understand it because I don't understand. I've never felt same-sex attraction. I have never had those feelings of doubt or confusion or fear or anxiety because of who I am and who I love. But I have family members who have, and I have friends who have, and I have I have interviewed and given space on BOTW platforms over the years for people who are of all colours of that rainbow flag, all letters of that alphabet. And I will continue to do so. And if you want to have a chat with me about it and tell me I'm wrong, then we can have that conversation. But know this, I am going to keep shouting about it as long as this is a platform. Because my politics, my values, are that we can find common ground somewhere along the way. But if your opinion is about lessening the humanity of another person, then we have a problem. And we always will. Fortunately, I think most of us around here can have a really good discussion about this. And hopefully, hockey will soon be back at the forefront of what's going on in British hockey. Because Lord knows, we need it. Thank you for letting me get that off my chest, because I think that needed saying. Solidarity to my brothers and sisters and all those who don't identify as such within the LGBTQIA plus community. We rock, we roll. Hockey. What's the score? What is the score between Dundee and Manchester? Is just quickly hitting the refresh. Eventually, my phone will tick round and it will tell me that it is 0-0 in the second period between Dundee and Manchester. Dundee having an early goal. Washed out, the puck not fully crossing the line, say the officials in that one. But what we will do is, like I say, we'll put the big news from the Elite League to one side and let's actually have a chat about the games from last weekend. I've seen your messages in the chat about what I've just said. Cool. And I know certainly, like I said, there's at least one. Jamie, I know as a member of that community. Hope you're doing well. Hope the news and chat over the last couple of days hasn't sort of nicked things up. Tom mentioning, but Fife have just managed to, like I say, it's a 12 gauge towards their own feet, but it is what it is, and hopefully we will all learn better things from it. Either way, we head to the Elite League last Friday. Quite a few games on last Friday. I will actually start with the one that's not at the top. But the Guildford Flames, coming off the back of their win against Nottingham the weekend before, headed up for the first of their two games in Scotland and come out of Glasgow with the 4-2 win. We all thought Tyler Prezisa had scored. He hadn't. It was Tyler Bush. But either way, the Flames managing to start off their Scotland trip with a couple of points. Dundee gave Cardiff a massive, massive scare and slow. I don't want to say the Stars are turning the corner. They're still quite a way off of everybody else, and certainly a way off the playoff spots. But it's caused an issue. They caused issues this weekend, as you'll see. It managed to steal a point from the Cardiff Devils, who are title chasing. And then, of course, that game at the top that you can see, the Coventry Blaze keep rolling along. They have not lost in regulation since losing 5-0 to Cardiff at home in 2025. They're still rolling along, and they were 3-1 to the good in this game before Belfast fought back late. Jordan Powell with the overtime winning goal for the Coventry Blaze gets them the extra point. Of course, I was at this game. You can get the full BOTW treatment of this over on the website, bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. My first visit to Belfast for ice hockey. I went to Belfast because I'd only ever kind of been through it to do other things with family in the past. So having a weekend by myself in Belfast was pretty awesome. Massive shout out to all of the folk I met loads of people from a bridge sort of sphere. Whether it was Marty, whether it was Stevie, met Aaron Kernahan, of course, who was one of the original hosts of the of A View from the Bridge. Got to spend some fantastic time with Patrick Smith, who I've known for a really, really long time. Got to spend some time as well with Scott Findlay from 3 on 3. 39 years of British hockey podcasting and writing round one table in McHugh's in Belfast was certainly a thing. Made me feel very, very old, it should be said. But a fantastic weekend. Great to see Coventry fans over in such force. Great to experience what it is from a Giants perspective, because I spent some time just sort of sat in a seat. Didn't catch up with the Door 14 hockey guys because unfortunately Marty's wife wasn't well and Dave just didn't appear. So I missed out on them, which means I will have to go back at some stage. But we'll talk about Belfast a little bit more towards the end of the show when we finished everything off. Into Saturday, and Fife did the thing, and then Guildford decided to give them... Guildford went and battered them for the... For the sake of it, 6-1 win for the Flames. Back-to-back wins for Justin Fazio. 10 goals in 2 games for the Flames, who've always been sort of a little bit on the wonky side when it comes to their goals scored as a team and goals against. They've kind of been hovering around that 3 scored, 3 conceded, which is fine for the most part, but kind of putting a couple of teams to the sword. Definitely a good thing for the Flames as well. And actually, a first proper credited goal in Flames colours for Jonathan Racine. Manchester, who have arguably been the surprise package of the Elite League season so far, up in 5th, a little bit off of fall, but certainly making a point and making a challenge under Cam Critchlow. They beat the Sheffield Steelers at the Storm Shelter in a shootout, and then Dundee put a massive dent in the Nottingham Panthers title charge. They win in regulation in the Motor Point and get some much desperately needed points for Mark Lefebvre, and getting 3 points out of the weekend. Into Sunday then, and the Panthers, well, they got back on the horse. The Devils came from behind against Dundee to get themselves a point. And Nottingham just said, well, we're not playing that game either, sunshine. And the Panthers win by 4-1 in the Vindigo to get something out of the weekend. Fife's weekend went from bad to worse, as by Sunday they were the absolute certainly a talking point around the league, and then the Steelers gave them an absolute walloping to make a point, 8-0. If you haven't watched Aaron Fox's post-game interview on this one, the first 10 seconds are hilarious. After a slightly wonky Friday evening where they didn't really get to grips with what was going on around them, the Giants put the Clan firmly to the sword. A 5-0 shutout win for the Giants in their second home game of the weekend. And then, because of the way I managed to format that's the Coventry Blaze. But again, more points for the Blaze. They keep the good times going. And they come from 3-1 down in the Sky Dome to beat the Storm in overtime again in the extras. They just don't seem to be able to be stopped at the moment. Do Kevin Moore's side? They get another 4 points out of the weekend. So then, as we look at the Elite League table, as we can see that 3 points out of the weekend for the Giants has them top of the pile, 54 from 34, 4 points clear of the Devils, 5 points clear of the Panthers, with a game in hand on Cardiff and level on games with the Panthers. Steelers in fourth on 47, and then that's where the drop off comes down. 6 point gap between the Steelers in fourth and the Storm in fifth, albeit the Storm could at least get themselves within touching distance if they win those 2 games in hand. Guildford and Coventry are tied on 37, although with the way the Blaze are going at the moment, Lord knows where they'll end up right now. But the Flames seemingly in a decent place as well, looking to try and make some inroads too. Glasgow in 8th place, 33 from 35. And then again, as you can see, another massive drop off. Dundee have games in hand still, but are on 19 points. Even if they win their 3 games in hand over the teams above them, they will not scrape the playoffs at the moment. The Fife, 18 points from 36 games, 4 games more than Dundee and a point back. It's looking harder and harder for the Flyers to touch the postseason. Fixtures then, as we know, Dundee and Manchester are on right now. That's still tied at 0-0. Friday, 2 games on the docket. Cardiff and Guildford will meet at the Vindico, a third road game on the spin for the Flames. Glasgow take on Nottingham on Friday night as well. Into Saturday, more Scotland on Scotland violence. Dundee take on Glasgow at the DIA. Nottingham and Coventry go head-to-head. Given the Blazes' recent form, that could be a very interesting game. And Manchester, well, they got that shootout win over the Steelers at the Storm Shelter last weekend. They will try again at the Storm Shelter this coming Saturday. Belfast take on Fife at the SSE. And then on Sunday, Sheffield and Dundee will meet at the Utilita. Fife head home to take on Cardiff. Coventry and Belfast will meet again. Can the Giants get a measure of revenge in the Skydome on Sunday? And then there is where you can find me this Sunday night. We will be the late show in the Elite League at the Guildford Spectrum. A 6 p.m. face-off between the Guildford Flames and the Manchester Storm. Really looking forward to this one. Flames have been on a bit of a good turn recently. 3 wins on the bounce. And then the Storm as well with some decent form, of course, getting points out of Sheffield. 5th place, 7th on Sunday night. Join us on Guildford Flames TV for all of the fun there. Face-off is at 6. We'll be live from about the 5:55 margin. Into the National Division then, and one game last Friday evening, and well, a lot of people thought it'd be one-sided. Swindon get the win and the extra point as both teams forget what defending is. Cats win by 7-6 in OT. Eddie Bebris with the game winner in a real back-and-forth seesaw battle that both the goaltending statistics of Rennie Marr and Max Wright will want to put very firmly in the bin. The Cats, though, then responded very, very well the next night at home. They put Hull to the sword quite convincingly by 6-1. Romford managed to head all the way across country into the southwest and got some points out of the pound. A 7-3 win for Sean Easton's side against the Bristol Pitbulls. And then, well, they've been pretty poor on the road this year, but at home the MK Lightning can still be relied on to do the business. 5-1 winners over the Leeds Knights. A lot of Lightning fans very happy on Saturday night. Sheffield looking to keep pace with Swindon. The Cats won 6-1. Well, so can the Dogs. They beat Peterborough by 6-1 on Saturday evening at Ice Sheffield. And then a big win in context of that scrap for the last playoff spot. Solway beating Telford by 7-2. Into Sunday, well, Leeds and MK decided they were going to forget about defending into the bargain as well, although Leeds come out the right side of a 13-goal thriller, 7-5 for Ryan Aldridge's side at the Castle, as MK failed to win on the road again. And Romford, well, they would have been pretty pleased with the points on Saturday on the road, and then on Sunday, they absolutely batter Bristol by 10-1 to keep themselves very much in the playoff discussion. Basingstoke headed up to Hull, albeit in the end it was a close game for a little while before Hull pulled himself away late. 4-1 win for Matty Davis' side. Peterborough got some revenge over the Dogs, a 7-4 win for Ashley Tate over Slava Kulikov. And then Telford managed to get an about face after a poor defeat on the Saturday evening. The two sides met down in Shropshire, and Tom Watkins' team managed to come out with the 7-5 victory. I'm just very quickly, just because I haven't got it immediately to hand, I'm trying to pull up the... what I want to pull up is the scorers from the that Romford 10-1 Romford 10-1 game. Andrew Coxhead was 1+2 on the night. Jack Cooper with a goal, a hat-trick and a 4-point night for Jake Sylvester. 2 goals from Adam Lasham, 2 from TJ Anderson. Anderson had a 5-point night. Lasham had a 6-point night. Pretty busy time for the Raiders at home at the Sapphire. I can only imagine how much that place will have been rocking on Sunday. We're just waiting to see if there's an update from Dundee. I don't think there is at the moment. Nope, still 0-0 as it stands at the Dundee Ice Arena. The table in the National Division is as follows, and we have the first official qualifier for the playoffs. Swindon Wildcats are guaranteed post-season hockey by the start of February. You have to think that the Dogs will join them pretty soon, but it is looking pretty convincing for the Cats at the moment. 7 points clear at the top of the table with 2 games in hand over the Sheffield Steel Dogs. They are 13 points clear of the defending champion Leeds Knights in third. Peterborough in fourth, followed by Telford, Hull, MK and Romford on the inside looking out. Bristol are 4 points back of the Raiders following the demolition job Romford did on them. Solway are 6 points back, as are Basingstoke. The Bison have 2 games in hand on the Sharks and a game in hand on Romford and Bristol respectively. Of course, our National Division graphics made by the boy Max Van Mullen of GB Under-20 Romford Buccaneers and the Romford Raiders. We'll talk a little bit more about Max in a little bit for a very, very interesting reason. Friday Night Lights down at the Link Centre. Nell Classico returns to Wiltshire, Swindon and Leeds. First versus third in the table on Friday night in Wiltshire. Into Saturday then, and well, it was the first game back in the new building for Basingstoke was against Peterborough, where they won. The second time they played in Basingstoke, Bison won. What will happen this time when the Bison and the Phantoms meet in Hampshire? Hull take on Telford at the World's Most Versatile Arena. MK take on Sheffield as the Steel Dogs look to keep up the pace on the Wildcats. Solway welcome Bristol to Dumfries. And Swindon take on Romford. With all due respect to the Raiders, I don't think they will score 7 on the road this time out. Into Sunday then, just the 4 games on the docket. Peterborough welcome Leeds to Cambridgeshire. Romford take on Hull at the Sapphire. Solway versus Bristol Part 2 in Dumfries. And the Bison will take the long trip up to Shropshire. 6:30 on a Sunday in Telford. It's the only way to be. Tigers and Bison finishes off the weekend in the National Division. And then we said we were going to talk about it, so let's talk about it. Here it is, the news that came out today of the announcement of the tickets for the Final Four weekend at Coventry. As we can see there, the graphic on your screen, the Planet Ice National Ice Hockey League Management are delighted to confirm ticket information for the season finale, the PEI NIHL Final Four, taking place in Coventry, which will be held once again at the Sky Dome Arena, which has been the home for. It's now the 20th anniversary of that Final Four competition, dating back to the EPL days in at the Sky Dome there. The big things, of course, that we know, 18th and 19th of April. What's happened there? That's my phone falling off the side. My apologies there. 18th and 19th of April in Coventry. Two semi-finals for the National Division playoffs on Saturday, followed on Sunday by the NIHL Division 1 Championship game, the winners of North 1 versus the winners of South 1 for the midday face-off in Coventry there. And then the National Division Grand Final will bring the curtain down on the entire NIHL campaign on Sunday the 19th of April. Now, the ticket prices have been released, which are, on their own, £85 for an adult, £65 for seniors, £45 for children under 18, but a 12% booking fee applied to each ticket, which means that it is close to £100 for an adult. You can go check out the bits and pieces on the England Ice Hockey and the NIHL National Division website to have a look at what is going on with those bits and pieces there as to when your club will go on sale. I should be in Coventry waiting for the last little bits to get sorted out on those bits and pieces there. But of course, it will be the same thing as it's been the last couple of years, that sort of staggered release of tickets where different blocks will go on sale at different times. The Bees are included. They will be in the general sale block, as has been confirmed. The Bison in block 15 is weird, but it's fine. You can see there the bits and pieces, the timetable for what is going on. Doors on Saturday, April the 18th. Doors open at noon. First game at 1:30. And the second semi-final at 5:30, which will then give us our grand final at 4 o'clock on Sunday. And, of course, as is tradition, midday, high noon for Division 1, where the winners of the North will take on the winners of the South. Now, it looks pretty set, as we know, given what's going on at the moment, that bar an absolute catastrophic collapse, the Blackburn Hawks will be making their way to Coventry for the Final Four. Who faces them? Well, at the moment, in the South, it could be one event, it could be one of three. Could be Slough making a return performance, having won the game last year, dominating Billingham in convincing style. Will it be Streatham making a return to the Sky Dome, or will the Chelmsford Chieftains find a way through? Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings. What do we think on those price points then as it stands? I see Tom's made a point in the chat. £85 I can understand. 4 games at roughly 21-22 is not much more than the going rate for 2026. And you'd expect playoff finals weekend to be a somewhat premium price. It's the 12% booking fee that, again, I think sticks in a lot of people's craw. Because you've got obviously you have the hotel costs and bits and pieces on top of that. 85 times 1.12, so it makes that £95. So effectively, just sticking another tenner on top of it, and people will say, we'll start having that conversation about what's going on that front, because is it scraping part? Because for me, the bigger issue here is a 12% booking fee. For me, I don't think I struggle to see some of the justification in a 12% booking fee. Booking and handling fees we can all are unfortunately kind of part of life, and we realise that to have a booking system in place to be able to handle these bits and pieces, to pay the people who need to do these things cost. I get that. I'll ask this question out loud. If they gave you one number that included all fees without making you do the mental math on the add-on, would we think about it so much? And I'm not saying it's a good thing. For me, a 12% booking fee is too much. It's way too much for what we will get out of it. I am just quickly trying to see if I can find what I want to try and find is the Elite League playoffs. Because, of course, those bits and pieces did come out. So the early bird, so standard weekend prices now, if you wanted to buy tickets for the Elite League playoffs now, because we're past the early bird bits and pieces. Right, so adult would be £115 for Nottingham. Concessions 95, so your students, your OAPs. And then a two family, two concessions, and kids will be in concessions as well. A family of two adults and two concessions for £398. £3.25 facility fee per admission, i.e. £6.50 for weekend tickets, and a £26 venue fee for a family of four. So I think I think that there's a crunching of fees being paid on that, because per admission means means going in both days, and that will not be included. So 398 tips well over the 400 thing. And as ever, the big issue for the Elite League is that third and fourth place playoff. You're paying. Even without the fees, you're paying money to watch a non-competitive game of hockey. Now, that's obviously choice, and obviously people have a lot of fun with it, and it becomes a bit of a knockaround. But the big thing that the NIHL weekend has had for a long time over the Elite League is that fourth game, that extra game on the Sunday. Whether you've watched no Division 1 games at all, whether this is literally your only contact with Division 1, we know that's a competitive game. We know that there is a big trophy at the end of that, whether it's Blackburn and Slough, Blackburn and Streatham, which I have to confess, Blackburn and Streatham sounds like it would be a mental game, or Blackburn and Chelmsford. That is going to be a competitive game of hockey. Two teams who've lost their semi-finals on the Saturday and don't want to be there on the Sunday is not a competitive game. That's the edge the National Division weekend has always had over the Elite League weekend. But certainly, with the price of the National Division weekend creeping closer and closer to the Elite League weekend, even with that fourth game that doesn't really do anything, the quality of the hockey, is there enough of a difference for people to kind of justify things? So I can see there that Jamie has put in the chat, 12% booking fee is the killer for most people. I'll do what I did last year and travel from NK to Coventry, which works out cheaper for me. And I think as well is one of the things, of course, from an MK perspective, of course, older folk like myself will remember that I was I was there and watched MK play in Coventry when the rink was being refurbished. However, the price of an adult ticket has almost doubled since 2022, and the question I would like to ask PI is the reason why that is the case, and that as well as being a large chunk for people, because of course it was much closer to £50, and now with all the fees and bits and pieces, we're creeping up towards £100. The answer will be inflation. It will be paying staff wages. It will be getting all of the bits and pieces that they want to get in to kind of make it as good an experience as possible. They are not answers people will like, but that is one of the questions that I think Planet Ice will have answers for. And certainly, like I say, I think like the fact that the price has doubled is unfortunately a symptom of the larger world that we live in. Where prices of things are creeping up and creeping up. I personally have a really, really big this is not a conspiracy theory, but one of the things certainly for me that I personally have noticed is that the value of stuff that you hold in your hands has kind of lost a little bit of its value post-COVID, whereas experience is becoming more and more premium, and experiencing stuff has now got a higher price point. If you think back to COVID, and I realise that might be a bit of a tough thing for some of you, so I apologise if that's hard to do. But during COVID, one of the things that we couldn't do was we couldn't go out and do the things that we usually did, but we could get a lot of the stuff we wanted to get because of things like Amazon delivery services. The internet allowed us contact and ways to explore stuff, but we were able to still get the things we needed. We could still find ways to go to the shops. We could still find ways to order stuff online. If you fancied to go and making a sourdough loaf, you could order your starter kit right then and there. You could order beer. You could order coffee. You could get your GP appointments. The ability to kind of get stuff never went away, but the ability to experience stuff that an entire population's worth of people had vanished overnight. Even our hockey had to be consumed purely through the medium of our laptops and our phones, apart from the few people that were blessed enough to be in those rinks to do those kind of things. As a result, events like this, big events, showpiece events, the premium to attend them in our minds goes up. So even though people say the price is too high, and yes, there's a bunch of cost of living expenses into that point, but people will still go because they don't want to miss out, because we missed out on 2 years odd stuff. It's why NBA ticket prices are so high in London and Berlin, but people want it because they don't know when that chance will come again. And that's where I think a bunch of this kind of comes from. There's a lot of kind of psychology of marketing into it. And like I said, I'm not an expert. That's just one man's opinion vomited out onto the internet. But that's a feeling I have. You are free to disagree with me. That's what the chat's there for. Enjoy yourself with it. Problem is, if they sell out or come close, they'll see their pricing structure is justified. Sadly, that being said, I've seen comparisons today to the EPL, and what we live in a different world now. We very much do. I say all the money they get from this weekend PI should reinvest into sorting out the shocking state of their rigs. Well, the issue is that a chunk of this money does also go to the clubs as well. It should be said, Jamie. So it's not purely going into PI's pocket, and they host it. It costs money to host things, irrespective of what you think of Planet Ice. Like, they do have to pay the staff, buy the beer, buy the food, do all of those bits and pieces that kind of come with it. So it's not to excuse Planet Ice because, Basingstoke and all that, but it should be said that for all of the jokes we can make there, all of that money from the finals weekend does not purely go into Planet Ice's pocket. So let's make sure that we get that one sorted and settled. We will very quickly head back. Still 0-0 the last we checked. No, we have a goal in Dundee. Keanu Yamamoto has scored for the Dundee Stars on the power play. 32-42 the time of the goal. Yamamoto from Schoonbert from Almqvist for the Stars. They lead by 1-0 against the Manchester Storm. I will press the right buttons actually, and we'll do that. What we'll do very quickly, stick it in the chat. What do we want first? Do we want NIHL or do we want SNL? You've got you've got 60 seconds to kind of put that in whilst I have a quick drink. Either way, like I said, I should be in commentary at the unconfirmed at the moment. If I get a commentary gig at Nottingham, it might be a different kettle of fish. But we will see what happens on that one. But I will at least have the choice as to where to go. The other thing that we did notice talking about tickets, just because I will quickly pull this up as we are talking, was that the news had come out about tickets for Aaron Nell's testimonial. He says, quickly firing back through Aaron Nell's testimonial game, Saturday the 25th of April, so the weekend after playoffs, at the Link Centre in Swindon. Season ticket holders will get a bit of a discount on bits and pieces. Then there's standard pricing and early bird pricing on those tickets. Is the evening Mark? Is the league finals on TV again? Do you know? I do not know at the moment. I venture there's a chance it will be on Premier Sports again, but I have had nothing confirmed to me either way at the moment. So tickets all on sale. But yeah, season ticket holders, I believe, have their season ticket seats held for a bit of time. Let's just have a quick look at this. Tickets are officially on sale for Aaron Nell's testimonial taking place on Saturday the 25th of April at the Link Centre. A fantastic afternoon of hockey, bringing together Wildcats past and present for all ages to enjoy. So it's going to be like a mini tournament by the look of it. Doors open at 3:30 for a meet and greet with the players in Studio 1. Live music starts at 4:30. Action gets underway at 5:30. Testimonial will feature a 4-team tournament, each team playing 2 15-minute games for a final to decide the winner. A few names have been announced already. Robin Davison, Lee Richardson, Shane Moore, Ewan Forsyth, Gareth Endicott, Michael Farn, Joe Baird, Wayne Fiddis and Ryan Aldrich already announced as being there for the Aaron Nell testimonial. More names to come as well into the bargain. Season ticket holders, seats will be 15, standing 12, concession seating 13, child seating 8. For folks just buying tickets, early bird tickets end 15th of March. 17 for seats, 13 for standing for adults. Kids will be £9 for a seat if you are not a Wildcats season ticket holder. Should be a really fascinating, should be a really fun evening, of course. Whether you like Swindon or you don't, you cannot deny the absolute quality of Aaron Nell outside of the Elite League, one of the best British goal scorers of his generation. So what do we reckon, NIHL or SNL? Where do we want to go first? Is the question there. It'll certainly be streamed, Mark. I realise that obviously that may not be what people want to hear, but it's definitely going to be streamed. You'd assume so. The hope is that to get it on television somewhere, but we obviously wait in hope on that front. Either way, like I say, hey, if I can commentate anywhere those 2 weekends, I'll be a happy boy. I think is probably where that goes. Also as well, massive shout out to Craig from the Edinburgh Capitals and Laura from the Five Flyers. They will be commentating on the European Cup of Nations bits and pieces this weekend in Edinburgh, of course. GB now without Josh Waller, now without Ben Bounds, but Liam Steele called into the GB lineup for the upcoming weekend. It does mean Jackson Whistle will probably be holding quite a lot of the workload for GB in net over this upcoming weekend. It remains to be seen, of course, but congratulations to them. Hopefully, like I said, I've said it before, I've said it again, I'm not here to commentate on one thing and never do anything else. I want World Championships, I want the Olympics, I want the lot, and my commentary career was spoken into existence on this show, so we will keep doing that. Marcus said he wants SNL, and Mark is the first person to respond, so SNL is what we will go for. I have pressed the wrong button there. Oh dear, made myself all tiny. What have I done there? Let's do that. There we go. Into the SNL then. 3 games on Saturday up in Scotland, and Kilmarnock scored 4 goals for the first time in quite some time. Unfortunately, they shipped in 12 to Aberdeen. Another comfortable win for the Lynx as the Thunder continue to look for their first win of the season. Edinburgh with a comfortable 6-2 win at home over the Paisley Pirates. The Rockets still within a shot of defending their league title, albeit it's not looking too good for them. But the Rockets with a 5-1 win over Kirkcaldy at the DIA on Saturday. Sunday then, Paisley did get themselves back to winning ways. They shut out North Ayr at the Braehead Arena. Whitley, though, with a big home win over the Capitals. And Whitley, of course, still up there in and around the top spots, but played that many more games where things were looking a bit dicey. But a big win over the Caps will help Whitley no end. Dundee with another victory. They beat Solway by 6-1 at Dumfries. And then Kirkcaldy put an 11 spot on the Kilmarnock Thunder. Kestrels win by 11-1. The table then at the moment looks like this. Even with their defeat, Edinburgh and Dundee level on points with the Caps with 2 games in hand over the Rockets. Whitley down in 3rd place. They are a point back, but have played a game more than Dundee and 3 games more than Edinburgh. The 5-point drop then between Whitley and Paisley in 4th, followed by Kirkcaldy, Aberdeen, North Ayr and Solway. Our friends Kilmarnock down at the bottom there. They have plumped up the goals a little bit more there, of course. 5 in the last 2 games. 38 scored, 268 conceded for the Thunder. They are 0-22. We will press the button then and have a quick look at the rest of the NIHL as we head into Division 1. Of course, the box scores provided for us and provided to you, of course, by heading over to NIHLstats.wordpress.com. A big thanks as ever to Joe Scott for all that he does. Make sure you check out Joe commentating on the stream for the Basingstoke Bison across the course of the season. And a big thanks to Hull for not sending in the game sheet. Well done, Jets. Either way, the Scimitars, who finally picked up their first win, they're off the mark, but now they drop to 1-27, a 3-0 victory for the Jets at home in this one. Solihull, well, Phil Lee stepping aside, no longer the coach of the Solihull Barons, and they went into this game against Deeside looking for a new direction, and unfortunately the only direction was down. The Deeside Dragons beating the Barons by 4-2 at Hobbsmoat Road. Edgars Landsbergs and Phil Mulcahy with the goals for the Barons. Ross Kennedy, Matt Barlow and 2 goals from Colin Cromie doing the damage for the Dragons as they look to try and keep any pace with Blackburn at the top of the table. battle towards the bottom and the playoff spots in North One, of course, as well. Let's face it, if the Scimitars aren't making the playoffs now, so it's all battling for position. And a good solid win for the Leeds Knights too at the Castle, beating Widnes by 5 goals to 3. 2 goals on the night for Frankie O'Sullivan, of course, the youngest goal scorer in NIHL history. Owen Dell, Jake Wigginton, and Tom Palmer with the other goals for the Knights. Goals for the Wild coming from Alex Parry, Flynn Massey, and Michael Gilbert. Sorry, Luca, we did have to mention the fact, but 30 saves on 35 isn't too bad, mate. All things considered. Into the Sunday then, and another tight game and a forerunner to the cup final. These two sides will meet over 2 legs to decide the winners of the North One Cup, but it's D-side with the overtime winning goal from who else? Jake Witkowski, his 51st of the league campaign, gets the extra point for the Dragons as they defeat the Tigers. D-side 4-2 up at one point before Vladimir Luka did his usual trick and got things level, scoring with 49 seconds left of regulation to take the Tigers to overtime. Goals for the Dragons, as we mentioned, Witkowski with the game winner on a 4.0 for him. The others coming from Ross Kennedy, Theo Malone, Michael Clancy, and Colin Cromie. 2 goals for Vladimir Luka for the Tigers, and goals as well for James Mather and Matt Maurice. Billingham with our friend, of course, Andrew Day in attendance on Sunday. A big, busy weekend of hockey for Andrew, where he did Queen Bees on the Saturday, then bashed his way up north to check out bits and pieces up there. Saw the Whitley Beacons and then managed to catch the Stars at the Forum, and the Stars put on a show in the night sky for our friend Andrew Day, an 8-4 win over the Nottingham Lions. For Stephen Foster's side. Hat-trick for Callum Wilkinson, 2 goals apiece for Ian Brown and Michael Elder. Roland's Gritans back in action and on the score sheet as well for the Stars. The Lions goals coming from Matthew Bell, Josh Chan, Luke Birchnell and Regan Kidd. As you can see there, Evan Coles with a 42 save performance certainly put in the firing line a bit there. And well, the Wild getting back to winning ways. They defeat the Sheffield Scimitars by 6 goals to 2 on the Sunday. Of course, like we say, we knew it was going to be tough for the Shims, and the Wild getting a little bit of a measure of revenge, given they were the side that was beaten. Michael Gilbert with 2 goals as well from Jordan Jolly, Andrew Hopkins, Flynn Massey and Alex Parry. Jake Scott and Brandon Chard on the board for the Scimitars. Luca, 35 saves. Nice one, mate. Good job. Shout out Nick Winters as well. That guy has faced an awful lot of rubber. It's okay. We're saving it for the players when we go on a charge and win. Luca, I will do this now because I don't gamble, right? If Widnes win the Northern playoffs, if you win the North One playoffs, I will send a crate of beer to your house. I will do that for you if you win the playoffs. Either way, on Sunday, the one game we probably all could guess the result of, Blackburn still crunching away. As you can see, they're 26-0-2. They have not lost. They have barely lost at all this season. 26 wins out of 28 is ridiculous numbers. Adam Barnes with 2, Andy McKinney, James Royds, and Bobby Streetley with goals for the Hawks. Josh Yeardley with the lone goal for the Jets in this one. Pretty busy weekend then in North One. In an early game on the big pad for the Nottingham Lions. They take on the D-side Dragons at 1 o'clock on Saturday. Blackburn take on Widnes, sorry Luca, and Leeds 2 take on Billingham at the Castle at 7:30 on Saturday evening. On Sunday, D-side welcome Blackburn to Queen's Ferry. That should be a really interesting game. Second place first in North Wales. Billingham take on Sheffield at the Forum. Hull take on Telford 2. Widnes take on Nottingham on Merseyside. As we head there, just have a look at the table as we can see. Well, the D-side Dragons have clawed things back ever so slightly, only 17 points, but they do have a game in hand, so it could be 14. And as predicted, even with not getting results going their way, the Solihull Barons have qualified for the North One playoffs. We wait to see what happens. Leeds Knights nipping at the heels. They are 3 points back of the Nottingham Lions with a game in hand. Could the Knights find a way to get into the playoffs over the Lions come the end of the season? Into South One, and there was no mercy on the south coast for the Solent Devils. Of course, we send Callum Perella-Fox all of our best, still in hospital at the moment. He's taken some time to recover from his bits and pieces. And an early fight as both player coaches went at it. 24 seconds into the game, Alex Murray and Ben Painter going toe-to-toe at just 24 seconds. But the Red Hawks with a 7-1 victory over Solent in this one. Was 1-1 very early in the second period before Stretton woke up and decided that they were done with this madness. A hat trick as well for Ben Painter, making a point to Alex Murray there. Goals as well from Ziggy Beasley, Jared Lane, Danny Ingoldsby and JJ Pitchley. Liam Coleman with the lone strike for the Devils as Rory Martin-Edwards makes 69 saves. Brett Shepherd only faces 20 shots in total. The big local derby at the Riverside on Saturday, and it's the Chieftains who do the business. Invicta were 3-0 up in this game and lost. Mads Toon with 2 goals. Jacob Ranson as well on the board for the Dynamos before Ollie Baldock and Grant Bartlett got things back to 3-2. And then Ewan Morrison, of course, their new import, tying the game up just before the halfway mark and his goal early in the third. A penalty shot, meaning that the Chieftains keep all 3 points in this one. Hang on a second, why did they swap goalies? Doesn't say. Injury potentially then, unfortunately, to Ross Miller. Either way, Brandon Stones keeping a shutout in the third period will certainly help matters. Slough and Swindon meeting at the Hangar, and much closer, I think, than people will have anticipated in this one. Seb Moore with the early goal, and at 2-0 from Ed Cave Humphrey just past the half-hour mark, you would have thought this one would have been done. But Swindon keep them close and keep them honest. Sam Rye with a goal just 7 and a bit minutes from time, forcing the issue a little bit, but an empty net goal from Juha Lindgren means that the Wildcats skated out with the victory. Although you can see here, the shots on goal, Matt Smittle faces 11 shots. Ben Clark-Leach makes 59 saves. And people wonder why that young man is so highly regarded. And then, you can see it there. As I just have apologies, I'll just have a quick look at the, just double check the chat. Fife have put a statement out just now. Well, let's do that. I've never been so motivated in my life. God love you, Luca. Right, let's quickly pop across from that, because this game we do need to talk about. Let's have a quick look then. Let's come back to the full screen and let's see if what Fife have just said. Thank you, Katie, for making me aware. Right, here's the tweet then. Following our game versus Guildford Flames on Saturday, senior management from the club this week met with directors and stakeholders from the Hive Kirkcaldy. We fully appreciate the tolerance and restraint they have shown whilst enduring a very difficult past few days through no wrongdoing of their own. From this open and honest conversation, we are acutely aware the Hive were placed in a very difficult situation and given no prior warning that the Pride jerseys would only be worn during the warm-up. They were also not made aware of a pre-arranged plan to auction off jerseys and donate the proceeds to the Hive. Our communication and decision-making was poor. We got it wrong. For that we apologise not just to the Hive, but to anyone affected by the situation and the subsequent events that unfolded. Five Flyers reiterate our stance that we are an inclusive and welcoming club, and that hockey is indeed a sport. Indeed, all sport is for everyone. We will redouble our efforts in our local community and beyond to evidence this moving forward. We do not condone any messages which have appeared on social media, which may have caused division or distress. Make your own jokes there. Any messages that are posted on our social media channels that are deemed to fall under the category of hate speech will be reported to Police Scotland. Five Flyers would like to place on record our thanks to the Hive for the incredible links they go to locally supporting not just the people of the LGBTQ plus community, but from all walks of life, and their commendable focus on physical and mental health and the general well-being of all who walk through their doors. We will take great strides over the coming weeks and months to look at ways in which we can rebuild trust with a view to being able to offer support again in the future. Their message of love and harmony is an important one. Anyone who is interested in learning more about the Hive Kirkcaldy can do so by visiting thehivefife.org.uk. Another statement that I'm not entirely sure exactly what it says, bar the fact that they've made another statement and they're saying, we're very, very sorry, Gov. The easiest way would have been to not do it in the first place. I appreciate forgiveness is easy to ask for from position, but this one felt like an easy one for me. There's a couple of comments in the chat that I will get to once we've got through all of our NIHL games, because like I said, I want to go back to this one, because as you can see there, the score, Cardiff Fire 0, Romford Buccaneers 3, and as you know, we are very, very big on Max because of everything he does for us here at BOTW, for the graphics he makes for us every week. A first senior shutout for Max Van Mullen of the Romford Buccaneers. Had a chat to Tanya, his mum, the other day. Massively, massively proud of Max and everything that he's achieved. delighted that he is involved with our little corner of the internet. Congrats, buddy. Thoroughly deserved. Also, it should be said, Gemma Davies with a 41 save performance into the bargain in this one. Two fantastic young netminders going to battle is what we like to see. Uri Husker with 2 goals for the Bucks. Tom Wilson with the other goal and one onto the empty net. Romford, though, however, did not get quite so lucky on the Sunday. From the sublime to the ridiculous, if you're a Bucks fan, 11-1 Streatham on the high road in this one. 52 shots for the Red Hawks in this one. Alan Kafizov with the lone goal. And as you can see, Sonny Phillips starting the game, letting up 8 goals before Max was thrown to the Wolves towards the end of that one. But either way, you can't doubt the quality of this Streatham team. 2 goals apiece for Ziggy Beasley, Ethan Lane, Dan Rose and Aidan Doughty. Ryan Watt, Jared Lane and Danny Ingoldsby making up the remainder of the goals there. Brett Shepherd came out after the first period. Dominic Ray getting 40 minutes of time. So congratulations to him. 13 saves through 40 minutes for the Streatham youngster. And Slough is a low-scoring weekend for the Jets when you consider how many goals they put on some teams over the course of this one. But a 2-0 win, scoreless this game, into the third period before a power play goal from Ollie Hemmings-Marr and a shorthander from Juha Lindgren getting the Jets over the line to keep their good run of form going. Cardiff, unfortunately, a 0-goal weekend for them. They had the derby at the Link Centre on Sunday. The Wildcats skating out with a 6-0 victory. 2 goals for Jan Kostel Jr., 2 for Tom Ashmore, and then Josh Paul and Oscar Sagan on the board for the Cat. The combined shutout for Swindon. Ben Clark-Leach and Owen Crowe combined for 15 shots on the shutout. A 45 save effort for Brocken Evans for the Fire. 3 games on Saturday in South 1. Solent versus Chelmsford on the south coast at Gosport. Streatham versus Invicta on the high road. Slough versus Cardiff at the Hangar on Saturday evening. Just the 2 games on Sunday. Invicta versus Streatham down in Gillingham. Chelmsford welcomes Swindon to the Riverside. As we look at the table in South 1, still very, very close. Streatham 7 points back with 3 games in hand on Slough. The Red Hawks still in the driver's seat. Chelmsford, though, still nipping away at the heels. It would be 2 points back if they win their game in hand over the Jets, and they still have to all play each other at some point. Cardiff, as you can see there towards the bottom, just the 1 lone win in overtime. They're 2 points on the season. 16 back of Romford in 7th. And well, goals, or not so much in this one in North 2. Sutton win. A lone goal just in the 16th minute of the game, and they defeat the Kingston Sharks by a 1-0 in a game that Sutton put up 43 shots. A pretty impressive performance in goal for the Sharks from James Adamson. As you can see there, 42 saves. Nathaniel Bell, though, with a 25-shot shutout for the Sting. Joe Colton with the only goal of the game for the Cup finalists. Another shutout performance, albeit there was quite a few more goals at the Sky Dome on Saturday evening. The Coventry Blaze beating the Bradford Bulldogs by a score of 7-0 as the Blaze put 62 shots on Jake Lowndes in the Bulldogs net. A combined shutout of 20 shots for Hayden Laverick and Owen Chester. Goals for the Blaze in this one, 2 for Ethan Wheeldon, and goals then from Nick Alley, Ryan James, Harrison Sumner, Dan Kent and Jordan Bloom. Into the Sunday, and the Sting, well, they got a few more goals in this one, and they put the Blaze very, very firmly to the sword. An 8-2 win for the Sting on Sunday at Ice Sheffield. Certainly cutting off Coventry at the knees a little bit in this one. 2 goals from Ryan Fraley, and then goals from Charlie Saunders, Morgan Glasby, Ryan Apsley, Callum Russell, Joe Colton and Jasper Wright. The goals for the Coventry NHL Blaze coming from Ollie Harris and Connor McNaughton. A rare slip up in the league for the Billingham Buccaneers, of course, into that cup final against Sutton, but unable to do the business down in Altrincham. A 3-1 win for the Aces, just their 5th win of the season so far. 2 goals from Josh Milnes and a goal from Ollie Gotts for the Aces. Sam Dowd with the lone Buccaneers goal in this one. Like I say, something that would have been a bit of a surprise result for many. And then, well, after getting a bit of a kicking from Sutton in the Cup semi-final, the Sheffield Titans took it out on Nottingham Lions. Just a bit, as you can see there. 14-3 is a poor first few overs of a 2020 cricket match. And ultimately, the Lions too, just not having an answer. Lions only managing 18 shots through the 60 minutes. Charlie Davenport, Connor Bennett, and Jace Daniel with the goals for Lions too. Let's have a go at this one. For the Titans, deep breath in. Tom Humphrey with a hat-trick. 2 goals for Harry Roebuck, Harry Illingworth and Marcus Janssens. Goals as well from Joe Gray, Scott Howells, Ocean Phillips, Lewis Swaffield and Ethan Jones, as John Lowe only faces 18 shots The Lions have to face 66. Not many games in North 2 this upcoming weekend, just 2 on Saturday. The early face-off down at the world's most versatile arena, Kingston versus Billingham, and then 6:30 PM at the Sky Dome, Coventry versus Nottingham Lions 2. 3 games on Sunday, and it is the big one in terms of the league title race. Sheffield, Sutton. One of these two sides is more than likely going to be the winners of North 2, and this could be a huge game, particularly off the back of that Cup semi-final defeat for the Titans. Will they get a measure of revenge against the Sting? Altrincham welcome Bradford to the Storm Shelter. Nottingham Lions 2 versus Deeside Dragons 2 is on the small pad at the NIC at 7 PM. As you can see there, 4 teams qualified for the playoffs. Sheffield, Sutton, Billingham and Coventry all into the postseason as a matter of course. As we know, Sting with 3 games in hand. It's a must-win game for the Titans if they want to keep the title race close. It is a 5-point gap for the Sting with 3 games in hand. Into South 2, and we were waiting on one more Cup finalist. Everything else had been decided. We were just waiting on South 2. Phoenix were leading 3-1 from the first leg, and ultimately at home they were just too strong for our friends the Invicta Mustangs. Rule 2, of course, is don't count them out, but they just didn't have it. They didn't have the strength in the end to muscle past the reigning defending league champions. A huge win for the Phoenix as they look to try and upset the Grand Slam that the Peterborough Phantoms look to be on the course for. 81 shots from the Phoenix in this game. A hat-trick for Jake Steadman, the goals for the Mustangs. For the Phoenix, 2 for Scott Bailey, and then goals from Jacob Rondo Smith, Nick Minhinnick, Ollie Dennis, Josh Abbott, Josh Sherrington and Sean Reynolds. As you can see there, shout out to Heath Prentice. 73 saves on the night for the Mustangs number 1. Oscar Minton only called into action 25 times. North London and a win for the Bristol Pitbulls, just a 6th on the campaign for Pitbulls too, but they beat the Lee Valley Lions by 8-4 up in North London. A fight in this one as well between Nick Gonzalez and Caden Hughes, seeing Caden Hughes thrown out of the game in this one. Goals for the Lions coming from Lee Hounslow, Ollie Davies, Alan Kavazov and Zebedee Gee. Goals for the Bristol Pitbulls too. A hat-trick on the night for Josh Dolphin, 2 from Aidan McGurk, 2 from Ollie Schoen and 1 from Joe Malfatti. And well, the news came out from the Solent Junior Devils that he was back. Jason Coles returning to the ice for the first time in 14 years. As if it wasn't mad enough that Drew Campbell was playing for the Junior Devils. Jason Coles back on the ice is something to behold, but not a pleasant first return to hockey for him. The Guildford Phoenix can continue on their madness and put up 12 goals on the South Coast. A huge 12-0 victory for the Phoenix, and a 39-shot shutout for Jacob Stoodley, as Tyler Campbell and Greg Blaze have put somewhat into the firing line. A hat-trick for Scott Bailey, 2 goals for Jacob Rondo Smith, 2 for Ollie Dennis and 2 for Sean Reynolds. Josh Sherrington, Sol Stoodley and Monty Gaylor also on the board. Now, Bristol got the points on Saturday. They could not do so on the Sunday. Beaten at home by the Slough Spitfires, who will look to get a good run going as they head towards the playoffs. Josh Dolphin, though, with another goal on the weekend for the Pitbulls. 2 for Alex Rossum, 1 for Christian Nicholson, 1 for Aaron Edworthy and 1 from Joe Covey were the goals for the Spitfires. And we talked about them last week, the fact that they are slowly turning the corner. The MK Thunder are starting to get their feet underneath them as the playoffs loom large. And a game that was a bit back and forth and a bit testy as well, as you can see from the penalties. But a 7-4 win for the MK Thunder over the Chelmsford Warriors. And certainly, Luca, if you're still there, your dad clearly had a bit of a fun time there, given all of those penalties at 54 31. People getting misconduct left, right, and centre into the bargain there. For the Warriors, Robbie Dow with 2, Evan Shard and Sam Austin with the other goals for the hosts. For the Thunder, a hat trick from Marks Canis and got 2 goals from Sam Peters, Mark Austin, and Hayden Hagar also on the board for the Thunder. And then in the Eddie Joseph Memorial Cup at the Ox Pens on Sunday, another convincing win for the Haringey Huskies. They beat the Oxford Rising Stars by 9 goals to 3. 9 goals to 3 over in Oxfordshire. 9 goals on 45 shots, which is pretty impressive numbers from the Huskies, who, as you can see, travelled a little short bench. A hat trick for Rob Rayner. 2 goals from Connor Smith and Ollie Cooper. Goals as well from Carl Etuazim and Ruskin Springer Hughes. The Rising Stars goals, 2 from Mike Willock and 1 from Danny Williams. Eddie Joseph Memorial Cup action this weekend. Saturday's game in the EJMC. Haringey at home to Lee Valley. And then on Sunday, Slough take on Peterborough at the Hagger. League-wise, just the one game on Saturday. Peterborough Phantoms 2 versus the MK Thunder in the Mini Ashes. Solent take on Haringey on Sunday at 5. Oxford versus Cardiff is 6:15 at the Ox Pens. And MK welcome Bristol to the Thunderdome on Sunday. Just a quick look at the table. Guildford and Guildford officially now top, but purely on games played. Peterborough with 3 games in hand and just a point back of the Phoenix. MK firmly in 3rd place, although it is pretty tight as there's just 2 points separating 3rd and 6th. MK, Cardiff, Invicta and Haringey all within touching distance. Bristol and Oxford are on the inside looking out, but Slough on 18 points with a game in hand over the Rising Stars and 2 games in hand over the Pitbulls. Chelmsford are on 16 points. Solent and Lee Valley are going to look like they will struggle, although the Junior Devils do have 2 games in hand over a couple of teams above them. It would take a lot for Solent, but they are not mathematically out of it yet. Honestly, it's just a normal game for the Warriors. I don't envy your dad in the slightest, Luca. What was this B statement? Well, the B's obviously... there's obviously been a lot of back and forth about the Bees, Mark, with the fact that they are obviously looking at trying to get a new rink into Bracknell. Some very ambitious plans in terms of having sort of a temporary smaller rink before looking at getting something much larger. They obviously then put out a statement about Ozone, which didn't go down very well seemingly with Danny Myers, because they talked about sort of collaborations and Danny Myers sort of saying that we've not spoken to anybody. I'm not sure I read that statement in the same way Danny did, but clearly some ground to be made up, I think, on that front. But the Bees have got some ambitious ideas. I do want to sit down with Graham Bauer at some stage and kind of look at and have a chat, get another interview going as to kind of what the plan going forward is. That's maybe something to look on for me in the next couple of weeks. Maybe let some of the dust settle. I can also see them in the chat. Artemi Panarin traded to the LA Kings by the New York Rangers for a prospect and a 3rd and 4th round draft pick. Obviously, a lot of talk that Panarin was going to leave the Rangers ahead of the trade deadline as they look to sort of move on from some of their experienced pieces and do a little bit of a retooling at MSG. It's like I say, it sort of remains to be seen what kind of happens off the back of that. But we'll of course keep some tabs on some bits and pieces there as we head towards the end of the NHL season. Just hitting the refresh. 1-1. 1-1 in the 3rd period. A goal with just 38 seconds left in the 2nd period. Lauren Hewlett has tied the game between Manchester and Dundee. That game in the 3rd period now. What we need to do, the stuff about the arena from the Bees is just a pipe dream in my opinion. Certainly it feels like an 8,000 seater stadium in Bracknell feels like a little bit ambitious. I do think that maybe a 1,500 to 2,000 is doable in that neck of the woods because there aren't a lot of those facilities around. And certainly I think the idea that, like I say, I don't think I've read their statement. I don't think I've read the statement in the same way Danny Myers has read that statement. Now, of course, that's entirely Danny's prerogative. I don't think that they're trying to say that they're collaborating with Ozone. I think they're trying to big up Ozone and talk about them in a positive light. And clearly that's not the way that he's read it, but that, like I say, that's entirely Danny's prerogative. I'm not going to tell him. And also, it should be said that that Danny Myers has done a fantastic amount for British hockey with Ozone just existing, and he is well within his rights to work with whoever he chooses to work with. I see if I put that on the statement. Yes, yes. See, we read that out a little while ago. You might have, of course, you might have been dipping in and out, but we did read out that statement in full from the Flyers as we all scratch our head as to what they keep doing up in Kirkcaldy. What we will do then. So, WNIHL. We're going to talk about this. However, Andrew has been busy, so he's got me notes for some of the games, and the graphics were not there from our friends at England Ice Hockey. So we have done a bit of cutting and pasting. I don't have that much in the way of fixtures going forward. Andrew has very kindly done me at least the Elite League and Division 1 for bits and pieces. How is Connor Bedard not in Team Canada? Because he's been hurt and they are not over, and they don't want a unfit player rocking up to the Olympics. If somebody gets hurt, don't be surprised if he doesn't get called in, was what I'd say. If I press that button there and then do bits and pieces, but let's have a look at the WNIHL and the big game towards the top of the table up in the northeast on Sunday, which Andrew made it up to, and then nothing to separate the Whitley Bay Beacons and the Queen Bees, 2 apiece between the title chasers. Steph Towns and Ruby Newlands with the goals for the Beacons, Yuk Ting Lao and Catherine Gale with the goals for the Queen Bees. It should be said though, the Queen Bees outshot 52-25 apologies. No, Queen Bees outshooting Whitley by 50 to 25. Scarlett Shelton getting the player of the game for the Beacons. This is the first point that the Beacons have ever got against the Queen Bees into the bargain. Elsewhere, the other game in the Elite League, Guildford beating Bristol by 2-1. The Huskies firmly rooted to the bottom of the table. 2 goals for Beth Hill for the Lightning. Katie Edgington with the lone goal for the Huskies. The table as it stands looks a bit like this. The Queen Bees are top at the moment, level on points with Solihull with a game in hand. Whitley Bay have 16 points of played, 2 games more than the Queen Bees. Guildford with their win get themselves up to 12 points. Streatham and Bristol bringing up the pack. Now the fixtures as they stand for this upcoming weekend, I've got these written down, and some pretty big ones here. Whitley Bay take on Guildford on Saturday. That's a noon face-off up in the northeast, and then 1:15 at the Slough, at the hangar in Slough, Queen Bees, Solihull Vixens. If you're at a loose end on Saturday afternoon and want a proper ding dong of a game that could hugely determine the location of the title, that could be one to go for. One lone game in the Elite League on Sunday at the bottom end of the table, Streatham versus Bristol. A huge chance for the Huskies to get some more points on the board here. Into North 1, and a good win at home for the Solway Sharks over the Widnes Wild. All the more impressive that Cassie McGregor had all 7 Sharks goals in this game. Linda Decker with a hat-trick and Taylor Huxley Richards with the other goal for Widnes in that one. Kingston with the win on the road in the Battle of Yorkshire. The Diamonds beating the Shadows by 6-3. Danny Newlove, Liz Saunders, Mia Forbes, Millie Thulborn, Kiana Tate and Kate Taylor for the Diamonds. Emma Taylor Lonsdale and Ishbel Wright and one other not yet to be determined for the Shadows. No fixtures this weekend in North 1. In South 1 across the course of the weekend, one game on Saturday and a big win for the Swindon Topcats over the Firebees. A 4-0 shutout victory for the Topcats. Leah Wallace, Mila Peroni, Ellie Wallace and Lily Endicott with the goals for Swindon on Saturday. But then, as you can see, a shutout win on the road against the Firebees and then shutout at home by the Cambridge Kodiaks. A first ever win and their first ever points against the Topcats. Viv McGee, Sarah Carvonen and Chloe Carter with the all-important big goals in a huge game in the history of the Cambridge side. Elsewhere in South 1 on Sunday, a 2-1 win for Streatham Storm for Streatham over MK Falcons. Andrea Lamb and Rachel Campion with the goals for the Storm. Hannah Zarazova with the goal for the Falcons. Campion's goal coming at 58-20. Mezarazova coming at 58-46. So a pretty tight and exciting end to that game at the Thunderdome. Just the one game. We don't have scorers in these bits and pieces, but we will rattle through them all the same. North 2 Valerie Conference, just the one game across the weekend, and a solid win for Whitley Bay Beacons 2 as they defeat the Telford Wrekin Raiders by 10-4. In South 2 Elizabeth, a much closer game, all things considered, but a win away from home, and as close as a derby as they will probably get at times, a 1-0 win for the Coventry Phoenix away at the Thunderdome against the MK Falcons 2. South 2 Valerie, and one game on Saturday, and a win for the Haringey Greyhounds. They beat the Chelmsford Pythons by 5-1. Cardiff versus Oxford did happen on Sunday. I can't seemingly... I struggled to find the score early. We will have a quick look and see if we can find it now as we are talking. Cardiff Comets. But certainly getting the graphics up was not a useful function of that one for me. He says quickly grabbing a drink. Let's have a look then. Cardiff Comets versus Oxford. They have not posted since the 8th of January, so big thanks to Cardiff for that. Let's check the Oxford Midnight Stars. They're usually a little bit better at posting. Oxford Midnight Stars, do we have a score? No, we don't seemingly have a score for that game at all. Oxford have posted that they had it, but we don't have an actual. We don't seem to have an actual result from that one as anything, and it doesn't say anywhere that the game's been cancelled. So, if you figure that score out, please put it in the chat very, very quickly. Otherwise, into the under 16s, under 16s North, Deeside and Nottingham were supposed to have played. I don't have a score, but Leeds beat Caledonia by 2-1. And then in the south, 2 games, neither of which were close at all. Haringey beating MK by 11-0, and then a big win on the road for the Chelmsford Rattlesnakes. They beat the Midlands Wrekin Raiders by 18-0. And there we go. Every game, as much as we could possibly do so, we've talked about it even if we couldn't get the result from that Cardiff versus Oxford game. We've talked about every game across every senior division, male and female, from across ice hockey in Great Britain. That means the door is open. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything you want to chuck out and talk about, whether we've talked about it already, anything else you want to chat about, put it in the chat now. Let's have a little bit of a natter for a few minutes before we finish off things here. The door is open. Yes, more statements from Fife. The Bees, we will see what happens on that one. But like I say, I might be able to try and pin down Graham Bauer for a chat about how realistic things are. I know he's had some very strong views on the amount of fighting and sort of violent misconduct penalties in the national division this season. So it remains to be seen what kind of comes out of that. As we've seen, the trade deadline sort of lurching towards us already. In the NHL as Artemi Panarin on the move, all those bits and pieces we will leave Fife by the wayside. But ticket talk, anything else anybody wants to chuck in, please do chuck it in now. As I just have a quick skim through the feed just to make sure that I haven't missed any immediately pressing news. We do appear to, like I say, nothing brand new immediately leaping out at me, but obviously a lot kind of going on. Of course, the issue being that we do struggle to get get some bits and pieces for the fixtures out of the SNL, because they still don't just have a list of fixtures on the SNL website. And Connor from SNL Ice Hockey Updates, do go follow them on Facebook. He doesn't do his fixture graphics until later on, but we do know one game is this coming Sunday, Whitley versus Aberdeen, the first leg of the SNL Cup semi-final will be at Hillheads this coming Sunday. It's a 5 p.m. face-off. Warriors versus Lynx, as Whitley look to head towards their first piece of silverware in their new venture, fighting north of the border. But yeah, like I say, a shame there's no fighting in the Olympics. That Canadian team is fire and clear favourites. Certainly, yeah, they do. The Canadians do look like they will be the firm favourites heading into this one. But can't ride out the Swedes, can't ride out the Finns in these occasions as well. It remains to be seen. One day maybe Great Britain will get themselves back there, even if we do end up getting battered by every single game. Which team's under the most pressure to get to Coventry weekend in your view, Anthony? Here's an interesting one, Jamie, because I don't necessarily think the pressure in terms of getting, if there's a team that's really pressured to get there, I'd actually say it's Hull, because it's kind of the big thing hanging over the Seahawks that they've not been able to do. I think the pressure is on Swindon to make it and then perform at it when it comes to Coventry, because Leeds have done it and won it. Leeds have won so much over the last couple of years they can almost get away with not. MK won last year, so they've had a bit of a wonky year. If they don't make it, it's a disappointment, but I don't necessarily think it's the end of the world for MK, although you would wonder about Tim Wallace's job if MK don't qualify and go out in if MK lose in like penalty shots or like an overtime goal. I think it's a bit of a different kettle of fish, but if they end up losing, if they end up not making it off the back of a really poor performance in the group stage where they win like 1 out of 6, I think there's a different conversation to have there. In terms of making it to Coventry, I think the pressure is on Hull, because I think it's time I think they need to deliver off the back of everything that they've done. But I think for me, the pressure really very much is on Swindon to get there and do something there. Sheffield is a strange one because, like I said, the mentality for Sheffield and what they're there to do is different. But but obviously they will want to, and they will put the pressure on themselves as Steel Dogs. I've known Jamie McElroy for a very long time. There's one thing Jamie's going to want to do, and that is he will want them to, obviously there's a fair few points back. It's very much advantage Swindon in the league, but the Dogs will want the cup, and the Dogs will certainly want the playoffs. And I think but I don't think the pressure's quite there externally for the Dogs. The pressure for the Dogs will be internal to do well and perform to the level that they think they are capable of. But yeah, for me, like I say, MK have just gotten their recruitment wrong this year, clearly, and I think you can. It's be less of a shock if they don't make it and don't retain. I think the Dogs will get there. I certainly think that Sheffield will get there as well, Mark. I think they are too good. I think they've just got enough this time out to get themselves there. And Slava knows how to coach in these situations. We've seen it multiple times before. Even with a Peterborough side that was arguably much less good, he had Nathan Salem pull out the performance of a lifetime to do something at Coventry last year. So, it's the ability to do that doesn't go away. But yeah, like I say, for me, it's on Hull and Swindon. My thing is with Swindon is, does Aaron Nell's style of hockey suit the big ice? I don't think the ice pads are drastically different. I think it's a case of performing in the moment for Swindon. Over in a league season we can all have this conversation, arguably, but for me the league title is still the biggest trophy in British hockey as a result, and Swindon are built to do that. Are they built as a playoff team? I'm interested to see Caden Villegas, Logan van der Maraka, that import core for the Cats. It looks interesting. Don't I see Bailey Thomas as a GB under 18 call up for the weekend? Hasn't been a full squad announcement. Didn't realise they had a tournament. Neither did I. It must be said. Tom. It sort of appeared out of nowhere, but certainly he and Theo Malone had been both have been announced as being called up. Because of course, quite a source of pride for the folk at D-side, because of course Theo Malone now a part of the Dragons setup, and Bailey Thomas, of course, having just moved on from the Dragons to MK full time. Certainly skimming down the list here, just looking at the GB Twitter account, there was no mention of that, but certainly there does not appear to have been a squad announcement on that front. What we will do, let's just quickly pop to D-side. Our friends at the D-side Dragons. But yes, apparently the Winter Challenge in Hungary this weekend. Let's see if we can figure this one out. What's the score there? Do we have any more goals in Dundee? We do not. Still 1-1 between the Stars and the Storm. Wallace will leave MK. Wallace will leave if MK don't make it. The pressure from the fans is there, 100% there. Since the near, all MKL fans have been focused on is getting to Coventry to defend our playoff title. Well, you're not going to win the league, so you're going to have to do that. Hungary Winter Challenge ice hockey. Do we have? Nothing immediately leaping out that I can see about even this tournament, but certainly news that it's there. Maybe D-side have jumped the gun ever so slightly. Either way, fair play. But that's what's going on there. Yeah, Belfast, because I said I was going to mention it. If you've never been, I've said quite a few times, because I've been really, really fortunate enough to watch hockey in a bunch of different places, and I regularly say to you guys that if you get the opportunity to travel, you should. However, there's a very, very few places where I say you absolutely have to go watch hockey there. Berlin is one, and I have to add Belfast to the list. What an experience that was! It is completely different. I don't necessarily think that it's purely just about being in a nice arena, because I've had great games in arenas and poor games in arenas, and I've had fun whether it's whether it's in Toronto or Gosport. So I'm kind of the wrong person to ask. But the overall package of what you get at a Belfast game, in terms of the city and what you've got there, the fans, the experience in the arena and everything you get, you gotta go, because it's such a different place. And also as well, from a personal perspective, I had a really, really good weekend. I was by myself, albeit on Friday night I was very much not by myself, drinking beers and bits and pieces with people, but I managed to get a lot done. I used an app to do a walking tour before I could get into my hotel. Did the Giants on Friday night. I did the Titanic experience on Saturday morning. Then did the football. I was at Linfield versus Ballymena United in the afternoon, and then I was at Ulster versus Cardiff in the rugby in the evening before flying back on Sunday. So I got a lot done in a short space of time. And just what a city! Fantastic history. Brilliant. And from a personal perspective, I could fly from Southampton. Yes, it was an Aer Lingus tin bus in the sky, but it did everything I needed to do. Just had a really, really good solid weekend. But yeah, Belfast has to be on your list of places to go and watch hockey if you've not done it. I appreciate people will not be, you may not like elite league hockey, but I think it is definitely worth going and experiencing it. There's something to be said where in the third period I stood on the bridge, as in a view from the bridge, and Belfast coming back from 3-1 down, literally could feel the bridge shaking. A very, very different experience to what I've had from hockey anywhere else that wasn't Berlin. And you've got to give it a go. You've just got to give it a go. There's so much to see and do in Belfast, even irrespective of the fact, like around the arena, there's so many places to eat and drink, so you can easily grab a beer, grab a meal if you need to, and those kind of bits and pieces. It's definitely worth it. And Belfast as a city is fantastic. I instantly want to take my family there and let them see a bit of what I saw. I probably won't drag my wife to any Northern Irish football. Although that being said, I've now done football in the league. I've now done football in the English League, the Scottish League, the Northern Irish League, the League of Ireland. I just need the Welsh League. Thank you for nothing, Buckley Town. And then I will have done all of the requisite league structures of all of the constituent parts of Great Britain and everything on the island of Ireland. So that's pretty cool. Either way, we're running a bit later than we usually do. But if there's anything else, final call, stick it in the chat. Let's quickly talk about it now. And chat about bits and pieces there, as I will quickly again just refresh the score. Still 1-1 in the DIA in the third period. Just having a look at this because the news has come out today. The plan for the French Alps Winter Olympics 2030 is to host the men's and women's ice hockey at the Allianz Riviera Stadium by installing, which is the home of Nice. Nice football team. They will install temporary rinks side by side, divided by a wall, for about 17,000 seats each. This fits the bid's focus on reusing 93% of venues to keep costs at around €2 billion total, though it means relocating OGC Nice's matches for 6 months. Supporters praise the innovation over new builds, citing the NHL Stadium Series tech. I don't think they're going to get away with relocating a football team for 6 months. That could be interesting. But yeah, Belfast, go enjoy. If nothing else, Oui Putain, there is a Putain food truck that is the opposite side of the water to the arena. I got the biggest load of food for like £9 and just inhaled it for dinner on Saturday evening. Chips, gravy and cheese curds, add a bit of chicken on top of it and some peas. You can't go wrong. And it obviously just lined my stomach beautifully ahead of what was to come. Because it was the most I've drunk in one night in about 10 years. Either way, like I say, last call, and then we will head out of here. Really useful thing, because boring practicalities thing. They changed the bin day here, and my bin day used to be Thursday morning, so I'd have to finish this and then go do the bins. I don't have to do that anymore, which is great. But yes, back to it. Back to the usual on Sunday. Flames TV, just before 6 p.m. We'll be there for the Guildford Flames and the Manchester Storm. The running is here. There's about 20 games left of the Elite League season. My first season of full-time commentary. Enjoyed it immensely. I'm very much putting my head down. I'm looking to finish this season as strongly as I possibly can as we head towards the playoffs across all divisions of the league structure. In which case, no one's got anything else. We will call it there. Bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one site for all things related to British hockey. In the Box Sinking returns after this weekend once Guildford played Manchester. Running with the Herd for those pieces where I've managed to get to buy some games. And of course, Banners on the Road is there. Belfast versus Coventry from this past weekend. Do go check all of that out. Hockey Stories, long-form in-depth pieces of content telling stories from across the width and breadth and depth of British and world ice hockey from the 19th century to the present day, behind the Iron Curtain, into war and beyond, where we tell you the stories of all the vastly interesting folk from across British hockey and beyond. All of that is there as we creep towards our 15th anniversary over at bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. Head down into the description. You can get all of our socials down there. We're on X, we're on Blue Sky, we're on Facebook, so you can check us out there, as well as the link to our virtual busking hat over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. That's all that good stuff is there. We're not going behind a paywall, but it costs money to do things, and if you like what you get and you want to help chip in to keep the lights on and the wheels turning, it would be appreciated. You can do that. The link is down in the description. And all of your usual YouTube spiel. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'd love to try and creep a bit closer towards 1,000 subscribers by the end of the season if we can do so. Tell your mum, tell your friend, tell your cat. Get people to come and join us live on a Wednesday night, or on the catch up, however it works, wherever you do it. But we will be here as much as we possibly can on a Wednesday evening throughout the British hockey season to cover every game, every division, every single time. We are not shirking or away from any of those bits and pieces. From Belfast to Bradford, Leeds to Lee Valley, every game, every division, every time is the plan here on Wednesdays, 8 p.m. on the What's Current stream. Apologies for the big spiel at the beginning, but I felt it really important to say something out loud about something that I personally think is very, very important. We will hopefully be able to keep our focus and maybe not have another statement to talk about next week and just sort of look about bits and pieces. But ultimately, politics and sport cannot be separated, despite what people say, because that is not how life works. Remember what I said. Politics is not just about who you vote for. It is the practical day-to-day exhibition of your morals and values put into practice. Have a think. Please think about what you do. Think about the impact. Think about how what you say and what you do. Will it lift people up or will it push people down? Opinions are opinions, but people are people. And let's maybe try and focus a bit more on some of those people who need our help to be pulled up and not pushed down. Be happy. And if you can't be happy, then wherever you are, please do everything you can to please be safe. As my friend Scotty Woz would say, take care of yourself and somebody else. For Banners on the Wall at WordPress.com, this is Anthony Russell saying stay safe. And so long till next time. Have a great weekend of hockey wherever you are. We are just over 2 months out from the end of the 25-26 season. Let's enjoy the ride together. Have a good week. We will see you next Wednesday, 8 p.m. for the BOTW What's Current stream.